Mine Yildirim. Now we have a speaker who is coming from a very interesting historical community in Turkey, the Syriac community, who still uses Jesus Christ's language, the Aramaic, both in liturgy and also in daily life. Our friend is originating from Turkey, but he's currently living abroad, and we give the floor to Mrs. Johny Messo, representative of the Syriac community and president of the Syriac Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, distinguished eminences, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I wish to compliment the Order of St. Andrew the Apostle as well as the Order of the Pamalkaristos for organizing this significant, prestigious and even much needed conference. I also wish to express my sincerest gratitude to the organizers and in particular to Mr. George Rockes for inviting me today to represent the voice of a neglected people in and by Turkey. I am hopeful that with a common spirit of humanity, together we can plant the seeds at this conference to turn our problems into viable solutions and opportunities. I should like to continue my statement now about the sincerity of Turkish democracy, ? And I would like to present the case of the indigenous Aramaean or Syriac people. I've been asked to share with you the main issues and concerns of my people in Turkey. Due to time restrictions, I have selected 3 major problems my people face in Turkey. But allow me first to introduce the people I represent so you can understand a few of our many problems in Turkey. Let me first start by the name or terminology. His Holiness the Syriac Orthodox Patriarch wrote, "The Syriac language is the Aramaic language itself, and the Aramaeans are the Syrians themselves. He who has made a distinction between them has erred." Unquote. However, to prevent any confusion with the largely Muslim Arabs of Syria, our people are more and more using our originally Aramaic and Semitic name, Aramaean for the people and Aramaic for the language. And so am I today, and would be great if you could do the same. Secondly, the Aramaeans and the Aramaic language are indigenous to southeast Turkey, as confirmed by written evidence of at least 3,000 years old. They represent, in fact, a pre-Islamic civilization that is native to Turkey, Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon. Third, the Aramaeans, as many of you will know, were among the first to adopt the Christian gospel. Partly for that reason, my people in Turkey have traditionally been called a religious community. In reality, the Christian Aramaeans have a very rich and long history, their own literature, their own name, and a lot more that makes them a people, or even a stateless nation. And this is also how the vast majority increasingly perceives and like to call themselves. In Turkey, the ethno-religious Aramaeans historically consist of the Syriac Orthodox, Catholic, Protestant, Chaldean, and Nestorian, sometimes called Assyrian communities, religious communities. Now the fourth point, the diaspora. As a result of systematic ethnic cleansing, and which the Prime Minister of Turkey last year even called the fascist mentality of his predecessors, the land theft, persecutions, and discrimination by the Turkish state, often with the help of Kurdish auxiliaries, the Aramaeans fled from their homeland. Today, some 25,000 Aramaeans reside in Turkey, among whom circa 2,500 souls have remained in the southeast of Turkey, their ancient homeland. And the number of Aramaean Europeans substantially exceeds the number of Arameans in our traditional homeland. Last point, leadership. In the diaspora, particularly in Europe, where I've grown up, the Aramaeans have tasted the delights of true democracy, of freedom of religion, expression and association, as well as equal citizenship. In the West, secular organizations such as mine have emerged, in addition to the churches and monasteries, aiming at organizing, defending, and representing the Aramaean people and their fundamental human rights. Now, the Aramaean question in Turkey consists of past and present cases of many human rights violations which have never been addressed by either Turkey or the international community. I have decided to very briefly introduce the 3 major issues as announced before, and then ask the Turkish state officials who are present today questions which faithfully represent the voice and the desire of the Aramaean people. It is hoped that this will initiate an official dialogue with the Turkish government on a socio-political and cultural level, conceivably coordinated by the EU. I'm not talking about the religious dialogue here, because that's already taking place. And I should add and emphasize that these dialogues haven't solved the problems our community is facing today in Turkey. They haven't solved them, and they won't solve them in the foreseeable future. And unfortunately, His Excellency, the Minister, he's not present among us, and I'm sure that I can speak of all my colleagues here. We would have appreciated very much if he would have at least be present and have listened to our story. Now let me start with the first issue or problem we face. I call it the lack of recognition and legal status, already addressed before. Turkey signed the Peace Treaty of Lausanne in 1923. Despite the fact that this treaty, which can be regarded as Turkey's framework on minorities, guaranteed the protection and the rights of the non-Muslim minorities and the non-Turkish nationals. Well, the Armenians were never granted formal recognition by Turkey as a minority such as was formulated in this convention. And consequently, they have never enjoyed their basic human rights, which include, for example, the foundation of Armenian schools, of hospitals, or even new churches. On that account, one could even boldly state that the religious freedom of the Armenians is even more restricted than that of the Christian, Greek, and Armenian nations who are recognized by Turkey according to the Lausanne Treaty. Now I have two questions here to our Turkish government officials. First, what is Turkey's position on recognizing the Armenians as a minority in conformity with international law and the Lausanne Treaty from 1923, much like the Greeks, Armenians, and Jews, so that the Armenians, are allowed to establish their own schools, teach their Aramaic mother tongue, the language of Jesus Christ, and freely practice their Christian faith? Second question, what is Turkey's view on recognizing the Armenians as an indigenous people, in keeping with the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples signed by Turkey in 2007, and explicitly stated in Resolution 1704 of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, to which my organization has contributed a lot earlier this year in January. The second point of concern is illegal land occupation by Turkey, the state government. There is substantial evidence that at least, and I repeat, at least 10 million of square meters of land is currently being expropriated from the Armenian people in southeast Turkey. The most famous case is that of the Syriac Orthodox St. Gabriel Monastery, which faces 6 court trials today and the potential loss of more than 800,000 square meters of land. Now, I can tell you that I've been to Turkey a couple of times last year. I was there in January. I've spoken to many of our people, and our people have the feeling that this is a lost battle. They're fighting to a government, a fight which they can never win. Now, that's why I would like to ask the Turkish government officials, what is Turkey's stance towards the continuation of the illegal expropriation by the state of huge amounts of land, historically and legally, belonging to the Armenians, as affirmed by the European Union and the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe? Another question, when will Turkey end the delays of court cases, as noted by the European Court of Human Rights Annual Report 2009, that Armenian monasteries, villages, and proprietors are facing? My third and last point, the return migration, as we call it. We would like to have a future in our own homeland. Last year, Turkey announced that it will invest no less than $150 million in the Palestinian Authority. I would like to quote from one of the Turkish national newspapers, which covered the high-level meeting between Palestinian and Turkish leaders. Quote, Mahmoud Abbas solicited Turkey's help for building Palestinian state institutions and constructing infrastructure for education and health services, as well as creating jobs. Toward this end, Turkey pledged to build a university hospital, a new industrial zone, and a conference hall. Moreover, Turkey will help with the infrastructure of Palestinian television and support the foundation of a diplomatic academy in Palestine. Unquote. Now I have 3 questions here. It would be great if the Turkish minister would be here. First of all, while I understand Turkey's sincere concern for the Palestinian-Israeli situation, I question, why is Turkey interfering with Israel's internal affairs while it has not even solved its own domestic situation? And why, in fact, is Turkey able to readily invest $150 million in Palestine and translate its words into action, whereas it continues to neglect its very own citizens and society in its own backyard? Another question, is Turkey ready to invest structurally in its southeastern terrain, which it has neglected for many decades? Above all, in improving the security, because our people live in fear there, I can tell you. In the infrastructure, or even in the facilities for normal life circumstances, so that the Aramean refugees who have been evacuated can be drawn back to the land of their ancestors. Last question. Can Turkey ensure that the Tur-Abdin region in southeast Turkey, this is an Aramaic name that is comparable, it is an ancient Christian region, which is the Aramaic counterpart of the famous Mount Athos, known to all of you. So can Turkey ensure that this region remains populated by its original Aramean inhabitants in the next decades, if not centuries? Now I come to my conclusion. The Arameans have an ancient history in Turkey and are one of the oldest Christian peoples in the world. Despite genocide, mistreatment and discrimination, they have always remained peaceful and loyal citizens. Noting that the Christian Arameans have fled from their homeland and in the past decades have frequently expressed the desire to be officially recognized by the Turkish government as a minority according to the Lausanne Treaty, in order to obtain a legal status so that they can start building up a future in their own homeland, Turkey must demonstrate how sincere its commitments to the values and principles of the European Union truly are. The Arameans, above all, ask for equal citizenship based on a new constitution that meets the standards of the EU, and which laws will effectively be implemented. I would like to stress the term implemented. They strive for the recognition of their people and historic presence in southeast Turkey. The Arameans ask not to be treated as foreigners or as a fifth column by Turkish society, led by mainstream media and biased textbooks. In fact, Turkey should embrace and integrate the native Arameans as an ambitious people who can enrich Turkey culturally, intellectually, spiritually, and even economically. With their experience in the Western diaspora, the Arameans may even become beneficial to Turkey in assisting Turkish society in the ongoing process of democratization. Now, between the 7th and 10th centuries AD, the Christian Arameans transmitted Mesopotamian and the Greek sciences to the Muslim Arabs, who later exported this knowledge to Europe. Perhaps with their Christian background, and as a people that has integrated most successfully in European countries, the Arameans may once again form a bridge between two civilizations, this time between Turkey and the EU. In any case, I believe the ball of democratization is in Turkey's court today. Thank you very much for your attention.